Hello, how are we all doing? So my name is Noreen, and today we want to do this podcast. I don't know if I'm going to say it's going to be our first episode or our second episode. Sometimes last year we did one with one of our very residents where we spoke to him, and he told us about his life before coming to Green Pastures. So today we want to do another one with a different resident, and we want to keep doing that every time. Maybe it's where we bring different residents and then we get to know you. So that's why we've called the podcast "Getting to Know You" because we want to know you. We want to know your life before coming to Green Pastures. Most of you, I'm sure, must have had very interesting life. You must have had things where you traveled abroad. Some of us were in the army, some of you were teachers, some of you were housewives, some of you did different things, some were farmers, lived on the we just want to know things about you. So that's the main reason why we've said, oh, we're going to do this all the time. And we've come with one of our very own residents. Her name is Margaret Gorrie. Hi, Margaret.
Hello.
How are you?
Okay.
Oh, yes. Thanks for coming
My
and
pleasure.
agreeing to do this with me today. So, Margaret, can you just tell us a bit about you? We want to know you more. Tell us a bit about you, your childhood, growing up, where you lived, and what you did before coming to Green Pastures.
Okay. Well, who can tell me where Balamori is?
Where?
Balamori?
Balmori.
Did any of you watch Balamori on the television? No.
Sylvia, did you watch Balmori?
It was a children's program and it was based on a village on the west coast of Scotland called Tobermory. And they changed the name slightly, but they did a lot of the filming there, and that was my home. So I started off in Balamori that you don't know, so that's dead loss for stage one. You've heard of it? Oh, good. Oh, right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, well, it's not quite so strange as it might be.
But where is Balmoral? Sorry, or Toolmory? What part of it? Was it in England,
Nope.
Scotland, or Wales?
Yes.
Oh.
If you go up to Edinburgh and Glasgow, or more or less Edinburgh and Glasgow, it's quite a long way to go. Oh, right. Oh, well, you're not so strange. The wrong side of the country, but that doesn't matter. Yes. And it was a naval base during the war. And so I spent quite a lot of time chasing seagulls around naval ships because that was one of the ploys. The Navy were based in Tobermory and they used to have children's parties on board some of these naval ships. And we were given, I can't remember, I think it was a slice of bread or something. And we were told that if we could get it on a seagull's tail, we could have it as a pet. So you can imagine 10 children at a party going around the ship trying to get bread to the seagulls. So that kept us occupied. Yes, it was a good place. So that was Balamori. But because it was on an island, I was sent away to school. So a lot of my time was spent outside Edinburgh at a school, which meant my parents, well, it was during the war or just after the war, and travel wasn't very easy. So they didn't come and see us very often. In fact, my father was away. He was in the Navy, and his job, because he'd been brought up on the west coast of Scotland, he had a little ship and he would go out with his little ship into the Atlantic and bring in convoys to the secret bases up and down the coast. And as Tobermory was one of the secret bases, my mother sometimes got a phone call from the telephone exchange lady, and she'd say, "Mrs. Allen?" "Yes." "You might be interested in a certain ship that's just come in. This is naval security." And we used to be allowed to go on board, and of course the sailors were delighted to have us have children on board the ship.
Making trouble, going around, going after seagulls.
Yeah, so that was my early childhood. And then I went into nursing. Children first, then general, as it happens at the Radcliffe. I thought, I'm going to get out of Scotland, and I'm going to get out of the way of my parents, and I'm going to go somewhere different. Some of us, we love our parents, but we just want to get shot off them.
Yeah, sometimes you just want to get.
So that's what I did. I did children's first, then general, and then maternity, and then decided I'm not going to do any more nursing.
No. Also, you're nursing, sorry to interrupt you. You first worked with children.
Yeah.
Then you went to maternity.
General next.
And then general. Oh,
yeah.
Okay, before you decided to retire.
And then district for a while. And maternity.
So how many years was that? Working in as a nurse, how many years did you work?
About 8.
Oh, 8 years.
I think. Okay. Something like that.
So you went into nursing at what age?
Yes, you couldn't go in until you were 21. So I went in when I was 21.
That's a good age, actually. And you did for 8 years, so you left at the age of 29 then.
Probably. I'm not very good at maths. Yeah. Yes. And then one day I was sitting thinking, where and what am I going to do next? And it was as if I heard the words quite clearly. How about going with a mission, because I am a Christian, to somewhere like Africa. Oh, where do I go from here? Anyway, I went and got trained with the Sudan Interior Mission, which I think it was called something different in those days. Anyway, ASIM. And from there, I went out to Africa. And again, it was a case of, where should I go? Perhaps, well, possibly Africa. So I went out to visit friends in South Africa, and then in Rhodesia's, it was then, and then ended up in Ethiopia. And
also from South Africa to Ethiopia, as a missionary or just visit around?
I started off as a visitor and ended up as a missionary. Well, what's a mission? We're all missionaries if we know the Lord, and we should be prepared to talk about Him. So that was Africa, Ethiopia, and I was in the southern part of Ethiopia when the war broke out between the Ethiopians and the Eritreans, because Eritrea was a bit like Scotland and England. You know, they were one, but they weren't. We in Scotland are not English, just in case you get the wrong idea. No, we're independent. Well, we like being independent. But Moses, if you go back a long, long way, Moses was wondering what he should be doing and what his future was.
So who is Moses?
Biblical Moses.
Oh, okay.
Biblical Moses. And he had the Lord saying to him, Well, he said to the Lord, no, the Lord said to him, what is that in your hand? And Moses thought, well, I'm a shepherd, and well, I don't know. But anyway, he said, Lord, take what I've got and use it the way you want me to. And so Moses, and I'm sure you all know the story of Moses, he had some ups and downs in his life, and he went to the Lord with everything. And it was, Margaret, what have you got in your hand that you can offer to the Lord? And I thought, I've got my nursing. Well, use it. And so I did. And to cut a long story short, I ended up applying to SIM, which in those days was the Sudan Interior Mission. But I think they've changed. I think it's now the Society of International Missionaries. It's still the SIM, but because of the political situation, they called it SIM. I just think it's known as SIM. And I thought, well, I've got my nursing, where do I go? And then my qualifications. And 6 months later, I found myself in Ethiopia, which is a wonderful country. But it was torn with war and was very unpleasant for a while. It seems to have settled down again now, I think. But it's got more broken up.
And because of the wars that happened.
Yes. And I was, first of all, in Ethiopia itself, and then I moved to Eritrea because, well, the mission said it's not safe for you to be where you are, and we're not prepared to be responsible for you. I mean, they said it in a very nice way, but obviously I was more trouble than I was worth. And so I got moved. And it was interesting. And I was doing more work. I ended up in the desert, the Danakil Desert, which is very hot.
What desert?
As a nurse, the Danakil Desert. It's up in the north of well, it's still in Ethiopia area. But as my parents were not particularly Christian, they went to church every now and then when it was suitable. But they weren't very happy about my going there. And I was up in the north when my father was very ill. He was, in fact, dying. So I felt, as the nurse in the family, I should be the one that's at home looking after him. So I gave up Africa and went back home. And I was glad to do that. So that was good. I can't remember what I meant to be talking about.
No, so now that we've known a bit about your life and what you did
and how I got here.
Yes. So just how you got here.
Yes, you may well ask, because I'm a long way from home, which is the island of Mull. I've got two sisters, but one sadly is in a home because of mental illness, and she's in Scotland. But my other sister is down in the Southampton area. And I had a friend who had been in a care home. Where are we?
Southampton.
I'm thinking, what's the name of the place we're in? Green Pastures.
Okay, yeah.
I had a friend in Green Pastures, so I came to visit and thought, oh, I've got to go somewhere. I might go to Green Pastures. So I applied, and here I am.
Also, you applied yourself?
Yes.
Oh.
I wasn't put here.
Okay, yeah.
I put myself here because I don't. Richard died 4 years ago now.
Who is Richard?
Sorry?
Richard. You said Richard died 4 years ago.
Yes.
So who is Richard?
Oh, it was my husband.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So was he also in a nursing home?
he was in hospital, and I was able to bring him home. So he died at home, which was good. He was officially he trained as a Church of England minister, but he was working with youth, and his parish was from the very north of Scotland, up in Wick, down to Carlisle, and I was his driver. He would be preparing, well, he'd obviously prepared in advance, but he was sort of doing his homework as we motored up the M9 or whatever to these different places. But he was working particularly in the independent schools, boys' schools, as it was in those days. Boys and girls, they were separate. But while we were doing that sort of work, they began to come together, and places like Gordonston take girls as well as boys now, and Rugby up the road from here, various other schools in the area. So that kept us busy. And then when he had to retire, and I believe this strongly, that old men should not be doing youth work because they're not really in touch with today's youth. And he gave it up and worked with CARE. Does anyone know the work of CARE? Christian Action, Research and Education. And they're more concerned about what the government's doing and generally seeking to bring in laws that are Christian based. And so we're on the road again because he was a rep for Scotland, so up and down the motorway again, speaking of these different things, and all with the aim is to bring Christianity into politics, which may sound quite simple, but it's not. There are an awful lot of non-Christians in politics. And some people say, oh, Christians don't get involved in politics. Well, if they don't, who does? And the place gets worse and worse. So I'm still quite a keen supporter of Christian Action, Research and Education, which is CARE. And then because of our work and because we were on the move so much, we haven't got that many real friends in Scotland. We're not without friends, but we haven't got that many. So when Richard died, I thought it was better to come south because I've got a sister who's in Southampton area, and her daughter is not very far from here. So Sarah is my guardian, and she's lovely. So Sarah keeps me on the right track, or I try and keep her on the right track, I think is more like it. But she's lovely. I'm very fortunate to have her. As far as Green Pastures is concerned, I had a friend who was not in the one I'm in, but
the old home.
Sorry?
Was your friend in the old home or this home?
He was in the Cambridge area, so he wasn't really in this area at all. But what I saw of Green Pastures as someone who had a friend in it, what do you say, in it?
Yes.
Anyway, I looked around and decided, yes, I would see if there was a space here. And there was. So yours truly moved in after about 5 weeks. That was all I had to wait. And I was on this floor first, and then on this second floor.
This is the second floor.
Oh, this is the second floor. Well, I was on the first floor. I was on the top floor. This is
So we have
three.
two floors, the first and the second. The top floor is the second floor.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But this was my sitting room. So this is the top floor.
So how many years? When did you move here?
2 years ago.
Oh, 2 years ago. That yeah. So this year making it the third year because we're in the new year.
Yes, I came in August or September.
Okay.
Yeah, I applied in August and came in September.
So how have you found the care here?
Well, I can't fault it. The staff are all very kind. And they're very willing if something is wrong, and they don't take it as a criticism. You're a nice lot.
Thank you. We try our best.
It comes over. It really does.
So
and
you think the care here has really been wonderful since you moved here?
yes.
So, but what have you like? I know here it will not always be 100% rosy. When I said not 100% rosy, I don't mean just in terms of just the care and all that. I'm talking about you. Even though I know you brought yourself here, you applied and you came here, but it's like you leaving home to another home, and the other home you had like maybe you get to see families every time you live with families and all of that, I believe. But coming here, it's like you made a new family.
Start all over again.
Start all over again with your whole with a new family and all of that. So what are the problems that you've actually encountered here? Like just like I mean personal problems, like how did you find it? Was it easy since you brought yourself, or how did you adapt to living here?
Well, I had a halfway mark because I moved with my husband from a bungalow in Glasgow to a home outside Glasgow, which was very much like Green Pastures, the same ethos, but it was situated again in the country completely, with beautiful gardens and freedom to go out and about, because it was before COVID. But they did outings, and you could do what you liked because we were just like independent. We were independent. There was 3 or 4 different types of, I don't say treatment, that's not the right word, but you could either be totally independent and live in a cottage, which would be yours. You would buy it and you could sell it to whoever you wanted to sell it to, or you were in a flat in the main house, which is where Richard and I were, and we again used all their facilities, and we had a car and we could come and go. And the hardest thing of getting old was watching my car being driven away, and I felt, oh, that's my independence gone. But it went to a friend, so it's been well used since then. And then what was the difference down here? Well, I just find everybody so friendly, and if you have anything, the staff are so good at helping you through the difficult patch. And Richard was here for quite a while, and then he was in hospital. And when he came back, he was in John's. Is John's Hill here, or is that my old home? John's Hill. No. John's Hill was the sort of halfway mark, my last place. And so he went there before he came home. But we decided that we should come to where there was more care and be nearer my only relative. So here we are. And we found everybody very kind. We found, well, I've enjoyed going out on the outings.
Yes.
And generally, I would say to other people, well, if you're looking for somewhere, try a green pastures type place.
So, one question, because I mean, here we have a couple of residents that listen to, and we have one or two here that are actually new residents, like they just moved here just a few months ago, and um, some of them have adjusted to living in this place and all of that, and then some are still like struggling to get used to the whole environment, not your home and all of that. What is that one thing that you're going to say that you've done, or yes, that you found really helpful, that like when you moved here, you understand? What is that one thing that you've done that has actually helped you, that you think if they do something like that is actually going to help them to live here and enjoy themselves here?
It must be very difficult for people who have always lived in number 46, whatever it may be, and that has been their home and they've been stuck there. But I've moved all over the place. I've worked in different countries and so on. So I think, what was the question?
Oh, I said, so what do you think? Like, what is that one thing you tell our new residents here that maybe they should try to do to help them, yeah, get used to living here?
Yes, if you've never lived in a community before, it must be very difficult. But when I was nursing, of course, I was in a community. We lived in the nurses' home. And then when I was in Africa, I was again in community. So coming into community wasn't difficult for me. But it must be for some people who've been independent, very independent. Must be very difficult. But you just get on with it. And there's no point keeping looking back because, well, that's been and gone. If you made mistakes, you've made mistakes. You've asked for forgiveness, you've received forgiveness. God knows what is your particular like or dislike, where you're tempted against certain things, and He gives us the strength to overcome it, if we ask. But a lot of us takes quite a lot of humility to ask. I can do it. And I'm afraid I've got a reputation of being somebody who says I'm going to do it, and I get on and do it. But I try to be reasonable. Other people might not think so, but I'm not afraid of going to management and saying, why do you do this, or whatever. But I've absolutely no reason to complain about anything. I think we're spoilt with food. If we don't like what's on the menu, and there's always a choice, and you can still say, I don't want either of those, they'll go to the kitchen and get you scrambled egg or something else. And I don't think that happens in too many homes. I think you eat that or you don't, or you go hungry. So I would strongly advise anybody else, if there was a pilgrim home somewhere near, and there seems to be a lot, and presumably they're all basically the same. They have the same ethos. And there's a nice mixture of carers. They have given up asking which country they come from because they come from so many different ones.
all over the world.
Yes. And it's lovely to see how well they all get on together. And that makes us, or it should make us, feel comfortable too. You can always find things that are wrong, but then that's life. What's right for me might not be right for you. Yeah. And I like the way there's the freedom to speak. I mean, I don't mind. Oh, yes, I forgot I had that on. Has anyone any questions about?
Yeah. Do you have any questions or anything to add? Different country, but no, but I think with being here, even when you come from a different country, I feel living here, at least you have the freedom of speech and saying, "Oh, this is what you want." Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be you coming because you've come from a different country. That means you can't do certain things or you know. I feel like once you're here and you've gotten used to the place, moving to a place, I think wherever, as long as it is not where you've always been all your life, if you're moving to a different place, relocating before you get used to the place is kind of difficult because be it that you're moving from a different country or from a different state or from one community to the other or from even things as little as moving from one house to the other. Maybe if you want to move to a bigger home or something, before you move, there's always this feeling that you get this feel, yeah. So I think it's just, but with time, one gets used to it and you just adjust to the whole thing, and then you meet new people, you make new friends, you're meeting the residents, you're meeting residents' families, yeah, you're meeting, and to be honest, these are things that at home we might not be able to, you understand, because some people, someone like me, I will use myself as an example, outside of place of work, when I just go home and just I prefer to lock myself in my room. Just whatever I need is in my room, watch the television, sleep, and all of that. So it's just basically it's like my life is just all about going to work, coming back home, and apart from mingling with people here, when you go, you don't get to, I don't get to mingle with people outside. But you see, being here, it's like you're meeting a new family, you're meeting more new residents, other residents, you are bonding with them, you have new friends, some become families and all of that, you understand? And not just the residents, the staff, and even the residents' families. Some of the families come and before you know you have conversation with them and you get to know yourselves and you're becoming friends. Oh, they are coming to see their own people, but they're also coming to see you because you that bond is there. You understand? So it's I feel like it's coming here, it's not just coming and sitting just for you to be looked after. Yeah. It's also you coming here and meeting other people and having friends and families that, oh, okay, if they had left you at home, you'd probably just be indoors. That's the truth. Yeah. You wouldn't have time. And the days you don't feel like coming out to meet people here, you're not being forced to. You remain in your room. If you don't want to come and have breakfast, you are not being forced to come to the dining room to have your breakfast. If you want to have it in your bedroom, you can have it in your bedroom. If you want to have it with friends, if you want to go to your friend's room to sit down and have a chat, yeah, you go, you sit down and you have a chat. You understand? Like our dearest Sylvia here, she has come and then she has bonded and she has this friend that they're inseparable. You understand? They're always together, sitting down, doing things together. And I'm sure you also have your person too that you've bonded really well with here. So that's just how it is. And even with us, the staff, we're coming here, we're seeing you, and It's like sometimes when you go home, you want to come back tomorrow because oh, I want to see Margaret. I want to see. Yes, you understand, and it's like home away from home. Yes.
What's the rule now about visiting? I mean, if I wanted to go and see you in your room, am I allowed to?
You are allowed to. The only thing is, if you can't take yourself there, you just tell a carer, "Oh, I want to visit so so person. Can you take me to the person?"
Yeah.
So yeah, so they will take you there. Maybe the highest they'll do is speak to the nurse. The nurse will go, "Oh, do you have medication to take? If you don't have any medication to take or something, then fine. They take it. They'll call the floor. If the person is not on your floor, is in a different floor. They call. Oh, is this person around? Is the person awake or asleep? If the person is awake, oh, Margaret wants to visit you. Okay, fine. You come in. So there's no rule about visiting anybody.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. People make friends. Yeah. Yeah. So I hope we all enjoyed this episode, and frequently we'll do more of these. But we'll talk to all of us by God's grace. We get to speak to as many residents as possible, and we'll get to know each other. Yes, we'll sit down, we'll have a conversation, and yes,
We got to know a little bit more about you.
yes,
50-50.
yes. Maybe next time you can ask me the question and I'll answer. Yes.
We'll put her on the spot.
Oh, no problem. I'm ready. All right. No problem. Me, I'm ready.
I think that's what's so nice. People are open. Mhm.
So, very, very, very much for coming to listen to Margaret tell us about her life before her. I never knew that Margaret traveled to Africa. Yes, you understand. But now you see, I've known Margaret more than I used to because now I know that she was part of SIM, Sudan International Movement.
Mhm.
Yes, which is now Society of. Yes, same. Let's leave it at that.
One of the few places I've spent
Yeah. Oh,
being shipped back
yeah.
to Zambia,
Oh,
where my squadron was,
yes.
landed at the
Didadawa, yes.
airport,
That's in Zambia.
going back in disgrace.
Why?
Because we flown from Zambia back to Cyprus, where half of our squadron was.
Yeah.
All the naughty boys were sent to Zambia. Then I was sent from Zambia, I stopped
Yeah.
uh, £40 buy a record player, records.
Yeah. Yes, over there. Can't get it off.
The capsule of memory there.
Yes.
Well looked after.
Yeah.
Residents there. Not radiators, the opposite of radiators.
Air conditioner.
Air conditioning.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the notice of the mess. Take anybody on the darts?
Take anybody on?
Darts.
Oh, darts.
Darts.
Come and entertain us.
Yes.
It was the school teachers
Oh,
Dined all the time on prawn. Because you could go in the go to Isle of
Right.
and you enjoyed it.
That was good.
We had a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, my darling.
Well, thank you for.
Yeah, thanks for
Is it-
coming, agreeing to do this with me.
Oh, and you're coming back to do it again in a fortnight?
Yes. Cheers to everybody. Cheers to everybody. All right.
Thank you very much.